The unstoppable legions of Khemri were washing over the known world. These lesser kings and their petty squabbles had been permitted for long enough. Settra's glorious empire would once again be such that Tra's light would always be shining over Khemri. As the Great King waited for the arrival of his equipment for his newly promoted royal guard and royal chariots, he looked over the reports from his generals spearheading the many facets of his will. The Vulture Lord of Minimhedem had landed on the shores of Skavenblight, expecting to find rats. However, the dwarves of Clan Angron had cleared the tunnels of Vermin, and were now residing in a proper town being built on the surface. Our diplomats addressed the Dawi, requesting the return of the Sixth Book of Nagash that had previously been hoarded away by the Skaven. This request was outright rejected, and the dwarves refused to speak further on the matter. Minimhedem then ordered the destruction of the clan, and his legions washed over the region, slaughtering every force mustered to stop him, and ultimately destroying and enclaving Skavenblight, as well as the Sixth Book for Khemri. Upon hearing of the declaration from the Vulture Lord, Hierophant Inithor landed his tomb ships and quickly surrounded Sartosa, intending to lay siege and scout the dwarven defenses before delivering a devastating salvo from his catapults at the weakest point. The pirate city had also fallen to Clan Angron, but the dwarven fools had never witnessed such glory as that of Khemri, and would all be swept aside in the coming tide of undeath. The combined might of Rasut and Nekaph was proving to be overwhelming for the wounded kingdom of Labaras, with the Queen's few remaining forces gathering in the Misty Mountains region, hoping our legions will break against their wall. How wrong they are. Arkhan the Black had finally crossed into Sylvania, driven onward by Settra's will to purge the corruption of Nagash from the world. Scouts are immediately sent to gain information on the defending forces of Castle Drakenhof, and discern the location of the Seventh Book of Nagash, and then add its power to that of Khemri. The Anubis were ready for the coming struggle, even if their company of flame cannons from Karazakarak were extra grumbly about being forced to fight the undead Urks, alongside other undead. Arkhan knew they would do their jobs when the time came, or their corpses would in their place. The Vizier of Qatar had already landed his tomb ships on the southern wastes, and the warped earth rumbled for miles at the sound of his approaching constructs. The Demon Gate would fall, and Sehenesmet would then use the ruins to construct his own bastion, and begin the purge of the wastes. His constructs had thus far only seen victory, and the utter slaughter of their foes. These demons would be swept aside by their fury as all others. Let it begin. The demons of this fortress were surely not expecting an invasion, but here we are. We have the entire of the Ushabti line ready to start blasting apart these magic towers that Tzeentch is wielding. Those towers are going to be an absolute menace, and it only takes about a volley and one more from the four of them to bring it down the tower. I also have the Bone Giant blasting away at the gates there. Should only take a shot or two to bring them down. And then we'll have Sehenesmet and his other big beasties moving to beat down those walls and move on in. Spoiler alert, this fella actually cannot fit inside the walls. No matter what I tried, he refused. So he just kind of sat outside and did a whole bunch of nothing. He does have some bound spells and such to be used as well, but his big hulking carcass was able to get through the door, so not very usable. Those towers continue to blast. You can see we have an absolute horde of big horrors to deal with back here. They're not exactly sure what to do, though. We need to close the gap as fast as we can. That way they're not able to fire in for very long, even though they don't have armor-piercing ammunition for the most part. They have magical shots, and they have a lot of them. Let's see, just a single hit there did a good chunk of damage to our Necrotech there. All of our enemy are pretty much exactly where we want them. They're all stacked up in the front here. Then I have my Sentinels moving in on the outside, so they're hidden. Ushabti continue to blast away, we can use them to knock holes in the wall as well. So they'll actually get through it quite a bit faster than our quote-unquote wall breakers are. That section of the wall crumbles. Weakness revealed. We've got to double down on the spells on these pink horrors here, ripping through that health bar. They do have the barrier to get through first, but it seems to be working out just fine. Once the barrier is gone, the scarabs can tear into the flesh. We have all of our Ushabti crashing in on the front there, and it's time to probably get them wiggling on around, since we do have a wonderful crevice here to charge through. Since Ushabti through the breach right away, start bashing into these Forsaken. Well, not the most amazing of charges, but just ripping into them, using the force to cut several in half. We've also broken through the main gate, or I guess this is my Serpent Guard charging through the other hole in the wall we have. The Knights decided to rotate on over, so I felt it was a good idea to pull the Serpent Guard on away and let the Ushabti Ancients sub on in. Spear Leech coming down as well from our big Scarab back here, since he's not able to get into combat. Do what he can to pull that barrier off so they can be ripped down by the Ushabti Ancients. Constructs have broken through this front group here. Very few of the enemy actually remain already. We just have to mop up some remaining groups. Let's get to it. Their own anti-large flying on into battle. Seeing if they can lend their aid. They were definitely trying to surround our chariot here, but are now caught between Ushabti and Hyrotite. Two separate titans of Khemri. Both sets have descended from the heavens. We can continue to heal as long as I'm casting spells with Pen is met. Because that's pretty much why no one's health bar has really moved. There's been a little bit of drop in our Necrotech over here, but that's because he's fighting a whole bunch of nonsense. Skullstorm ripping through. You can pretty much use them with impunity since they will reflect right off of your heavily armored units. Ushabti are ripping into them. Yes, an incorrect order was given to my sentinels and they started wiggling around to the side. I wondered why they didn't actually get through the walls. Their knights retreating using the cover of some pink horrors. Those horrors have the luxury of being alive for only as long as we know they're there. This last cultist too has been just sprinting around. Breathing real hard, he's having a hard time here. He's more meant for books than fighting. Gonna take cover behind their walls. We'll use the Ushabti just sure that we need to go ahead and just charge into this platform. If you do that, the enemy will charge through the platform to come get you. There we go. The AI is foolish. If they see you chop it on their platforms and stuff, they don't like it. So they will send their missile troops, even if they are a perfectly good spot, they'll send them through to fight you. Dropping another Skullstorm down back there just to break up that formation. And we've got the bowmen inside as well. Might as well use them for their sword capabilities since they would be just fighting these poor innocent horrors. Give them a little smack with the bow. Why use a sword? Point blank arrow shots. Got some Forsaken charging in as well. Big Colossus is ready to lend his aid. And a combination of Forsaken and Horrors would normally be a scary proposition, but not for even the bowmen of... Not for the bowmen of Khemri. Bashing everyone aside with that giant censer. Literally laser beam attack. We only hit one of them with it. That's some dedicated destruction. Oh, stomp. Let's see what's going on in the other parts of the battle. It looks as though we are claiming victory and the white flag has gone up. Most of the demons have broken. Hennesmet's claimed this position over here with a bunch of blue horrors being kicked aside. mostly nothing but broken and shattered units. These all are disintegrating on away. Back to the warp with you. Yep, that's a win. And with no losses on our side, the Oracles of Tzeentch are crushed. 188 deployed to their 1453. An easy win. We will go ahead and I might sack the settlement first, but if we claim this, I want to test if we claim one of the demon settlements currently, does this give it, does it allow it to be at the max tier as it was before? Does it take it down to single tier? Let's find out. And I know this is unpleasant territory, but I think if we don't purge the waste like this, then it's going to be forever. We're going to have to deal with Kairos infinitely. So we'll let the Storm of Necromancy kick up. We do have to deal with this teleportation portal of Be'lakor down here, unless he is already killed. Hello there, Gerald. Poke, poke. We'll go ahead and pass out some skill points to Zahinazma now. Grab the Ancient Stone, giving us more leadership, weapon strength, and spell resistance for all of our big stone boys. So we can keep working towards Resurrect, so we can have 2 different healing spells, or 2 different healing skills for Zahinazma there. And then for Onuris, the Ever-Living, go ahead and hand you out Mentor, so we can start giving those skills over to the other Tomb Princes that are running around. And then for our Necrotect, I think we want to go for... Well, it's kind of a tough call. Maybe just the final point and boost income. His combat stats don't really bother me all that much. So let's go for the final point and boost income. And we're probably going to take him off his chariot. Just is a little bit too dangerous. Oh, he's either on a chariot or on foot. Okay, well, he's got to keep up with the Ushabti running around, so he's got to stay on foot then. Give him a Trickster's Helm, a Cloak of the Dunes, so he can be stalking and unspottable. That'll help him out quite a bit there. And then why not give him another Opal Amulet and a Sword of Battle. So he's got some weapons. For ancillaries, I generally will pass out just the ones that we have available. Don't have all that many, because usually you are wanting to craft yours here with Settra and the Tomb Kings, and I have not quite done so. Okay, so it just took it down a single tier. That actually works entirely fine. We'll come on in, we'll throw in the Obsidian Quarry and the walls. Everything else there is going to... Maybe also take the Scorpion Nest out, and we'll let Zahinazma kind of hang out. Accipiter, if you want to fight, we can definitely do so, but that's the first victory under our belt. The vermin of these mountains are as clever as they are cowardly. An especially vicious warlord has led an elite force through the tunnels to strike at the Sump Pit settlement. The defenders were caught completely by surprise, and had not the time to bolster their meager force. Our new conquest was lost in a swarm of chittering bodies, as the clan migration to the new hive nest began. Over in Morocco, Tomb King Sakum had made a failed attempt at moving past Lamia and attacking Morocco directly, to form a point of resistance within our own kingdom. The fool was annihilated by the magnificent defenders of the town of Morocco, and his army cast back into the realm of souls for their troubles. After so many victories over the High Queen's forces, our Lich Priests and Craftsmen have had ample opportunity to study and perfect the master-crafted bows of Labaris. Every archer in our legions shall be outfitted with these new, more powerful bows, which shall provide more range and more devastating impact, with less overall effort from the user. Meanwhile in Sartosa, Hierophant Inithor has discovered a weak point in the Dwarven defenses. His legion was moving swiftly into position, and the Screaming Skull catapults loaded quickly with ammunition. The dwarves were masters of entrenched combat, and so Inithor would simply blast their defensive positions apart with magic and artillery. The stunted weaklings would have nowhere to hide. And the time is now. Our Hierophant stands ready to claim Sartosa and drive out these Dawi. The battle formation we are going to roll with is going to be kind of as such, and to start off the battle, Tra's Incantation of Righteous Smiting is going down to just give them some more reload skill and weapon damage, so they are going to be having 353 to the 163 of the normal artillery bunch. They're going to pack a nasty wallop. So I've basically got all of my archers up front. We're not going to move them up at all until the towers of the Dawi have been defeated. They have 660 weapon strength, and I believe they're going to be throwing out either rockets or rocks at us. So first order of business is to blast apart their towers, and then we'll send our archers forward. Once theirs are kind of retreating under the salvo of withering fire, we'll blast them apart from there. I also have the Tomb Scorpion and all of the big beasties ready to kind of charge on in once the walls are down, because that's what we're going to do with the skull catapults as well. We're going to use them to blast holes in the walls and allow our giant constructs to kind of charge on through. How the Dabi prepared for the first salvo. None of them missed their mark, except for that one there, maybe. We can speed it on up a single tier while we kind of allow the bombardment to commence. Some of our troops got a little bit too close. They're going to take a bit of a pounding there as they charge on in. I was attempting initially to kind of use him to kite, but he moves so slowly that it's just best to kind of stand there or avoid the fire altogether. Not taking much damage as of yet, though. Screaming Skulls continue to blast apart the tower there. Not the best use for them. They're way better at taking apart infantry lines, but gotta do what we gotta do. Bring down those towers. First one has fallen, injuring several of the Dawi that were hiding behind. Continue to kind of rip apart my archers there. They've got the artillery team hiding under the bridge. One out of every rock actually makes it out. And when it plinks into the archers, it does plenty of damage, as you saw there. Really need to get a unit underneath that bridge and eliminating. The Dawi are kind of stacked up with all of their longbeards. With the dwarf warriors up on the wall as well. Just trying to give us a varied layer of death to waddle through. I think we'll handle it just fine. We've got the infantry teams moving up as well now as the catapults try to blast a hole in the wall. They left some warlords outside, so they're gonna have a bad day as the Scorpion nom-noms on as many as it can. They're gonna go right back inside. Realize what a bad play that was. Coral pelts flying in on our ancient tomb mummies, who are honestly very, very tall. They may have given these guys a bit of a visual update. I don't remember them being quite so tall. They dwarf our normal soldiers here. The gates are not open. They've just swung wide to allow the Coralers inside. We've got our sepulchral stalkers here, scooting on around to the outside to nom-nom through those gates. Archer's going to return fire, and they don't have a lot of armor piercing, but it'll be a bit of chip damage. We'll send all of the infantry in. We've got the Tomb Guard on this set of towers, as well as the Hawk Legion of Settra. Should be a wonderful tag team to rip through these Dawi on the walls here. I'm gonna get right to it. The Hawk Legion fears nothing, especially not some Dawi. Even though Clan Angren definitely has the best colors out of all of the different Dawi factions. Gates have been breached. Send them through. We'll definitely want the two mummies, Colossus, and Big Scorpion to be leading the charge. Let's go, catapults. Pour into this one unit. And our Khepra Swarm are on a little bit of a secret agent mission to annihilate the different archer lines behind the walls. We missed them doing some major damage to these Thunderers. Now they're going to swarm on down on these catapults. Catapults are in a bit of a weird spot, so our swarm is having a hard time getting down there on them. Catapults continuing to blast away. We've got a lovely siege going. Now we are holding back. Pretty much nothing at this point. Being ripped asunder. Scarab Swarm has chased the catapult back and done a good deal of damage to it. We're going to have them continue to swarm around. It looks incredible with the chain. I think their models have been switched up a little bit as well. There's been a lot of visual updates. Several of the, you can kind of see, I don't know, we may be able to see it back on the main map. I'll have to take a look. But several of the character models, especially for a lot of the Khepra Swarm, have had it change art. They all look incredible. So whoever the artist is on there, very good work. As we butcher. Turn these poor Dawi into jam. Not very many of you fellas fit into jars, so. foot battle is going very poorly for the Clan Disgraced fighters. And our Swarmist kids can even waddle around and munch on different archer groups. They're incredible until they hit Rampage. Once they Rampage out, they have some problems, but they have a bonus versus infantry and magical attacks, so they actually perform incredible against the different demon units. So if you're needing something to counter Furies, these little guys will do it. They may die in the process. They're similar to Furies in that they're a glass cannon. Our Hierophant has stayed pretty much outside the entire battle, just casting down all of the spells he can, keeping the heals up. Agent of Numas is in here as well. Continues to use his fist instead of the gigantic blade. Giants. Not always the smartest. If they didn't have enough to deal with, these Longbeards have now been flanked by another team of Tomb Guard. Catapults blasting away, needing different targets, definitely. But in the back line has been pretty much crumped just by the flyers. The beetles have rained havoc on the back line. Most of the Dawi have broken. We've got a few different units of... This is a Longbeard unit, not just a normal Dawi warrior. He's not going to stick around for long. And then a couple more warriors rotating up at the side here. These were our disciples. I named these guys incorrectly. We're our speediest unit, so I was going to use them to kind of harass and claim points. And if anyone wanted to cause them problems, they would just hit them with some of that. Disciples of Straw, don't mess around. They don't mess around so much, in fact, that this group wanted to fight them, if Longbeards even is refusing to do so. Back on the main front, we just have a blob of skeletons moving through. Hierophant also lending his aid. He'll ride off to the side and start slinging more spells. Battle Mage extraordinaire. Longbeards or not, they are being doused out with some flame. Shields up. Oh, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. These Dawi are well cooked. They're not actually taking that much damage, but they're being slowed down quite a bit and being whittled. If this was a low armored unit, they'd be gone. There would be nothing left. They're going to blast until they get a little bit closer, then we'll have them pull on away so they don't take damage. Normal warriors here are now engaging. Sphinx Legion, Doom Guard, and Hawk Legion of Settra all rolling together. There sounded like the white flag going up, though. Looks as though the Dawi have called a defeat. They're retreating as fast as they can to try to get back to their mountain holds. Turns out pirate cities don't belong to them. The stubborn fools thought they could hold out against Settra's will. They have been proven wrong. 1,200 fell. We gained only 4 jars. The Dawi are little fellas, after all. We'll go ahead and... Well, I'm tempted to sack the settlement. Let's do it. We're going to sack Sartosa because we have to. Just for the disrespect. And then we'll go ahead and just claim Sartosa back for Khemri. Hybrid's current has been secured. Queen Rasoot's highly mobile force swiftly outmaneuvers and slaughters the well-outmatched defenders of Rasetra. The Great King was almost disappointed in the lack of fight the city put up under Khalidah's rule. The city-state of Rasetra had long been a thorn in his side thousands of years previous, before eventually being crushed and brought into Khemri. Many glorious battles were won and lost before his eventual victory. Even so, he was thankful to Rasoot for bringing Rasetra back into his empire once more. Over in Leia, Hierophant Inithor had been cutting a bloody swath through the countryside, and had purged all ratkin from the settlements of Lucini and Rifrafa. Settra was pleased to see that his kingdom was again beginning to stretch as far north as in the time before his death. There was still much to be done. Settra never made contact with the dragons of Cathay in life. He had heard tales of mystical creatures ruling a far-off land, but had dismissed them as he had other concerns that were more pressing in Khemri. Now Miao Ying, Dragon of the Storm Wind and Defender of the Great Bastion, has sent a delegation to Khemri, requesting that trade and cooperation flourish between our two great people. Settra agrees, as these dragons of Cathay live in a far-off place, and at current pose no threat to his everlasting rule. Settra does not agree, however, to the trespasses of the cowardly followers of the Changer. The Demon Prince Karan has returned again from the warp, with a slavering new host of warped filth. The withering gaze of the Great King had kept the Prince of Chaos unsure of his next move, while Settra finished refitting his soldiers with their new equipment. The legions of Khemri now moved to crush these invaders, before another step could be taken inland. And so we bring this failure of a Demon Prince to battle once more. Karan is coming on at us with a bunch of Chosen. He's got some Forsaken as well as some Meat Shield Marauders. A bunch of Exalted Pink Horrors, which are going to be giving him plenty of extra magic as long as I believe they are not fighting anyone. So we want to get our Chariots into battle with them as fast as we can. We've also got some Burning Chariots with 1.4 thousand weapon strength. It's also, I believe, going to weaken us towards fire, which is just the swellest. And then we'll have the Flamers of Teach to deal with as well, and the Soul Grinders with their heat-seeking bonus versus large missiles. Whole bunch of nasty to deal with Karen's army here, but I think the Imperishable and his hardened troop of Royal Guard should have no trouble dealing with it. Settra's mighty legion has faced down demons before, and now they do so with even greater equipment. Our Royal Guard and our Royal Chariots have now arrived. Kind of take a quick look at their stats. They've got Deathblow, and there actually has been a change to the princes if they have the Royal Lieutenant perk, which gives them normally just some more health, and I believe it is leadership. I'll have to double check, but they now will give your entire skeleton, any of your skeletal legion, any of the warriors will have formation attack. So they'll try to stay in formation with melee. Melee defense will be slightly increased. Now, this may be a different version of formation attack than is in the base game, because the base game's version of formation attack does not actually do all that much for you. So I'll have to go and take a look, read up on the notes and see what has changed. But they now have formation attack as well, which should just try to force them to stay in their formation as they're fighting. We will see how well that works in today's battle. The Casket of Souls is going to lead off the first volley there, blasting into that group of Chosen. The most dangerous units for them are definitely going to be the Chosen and the Spawn. Spawn are going to actually sunder armor as they touch it. And they've got a Soul Grinder back here, two of them. It's going to be very hard to actually reach them, though, and the Chariots don't do all that much damage to single entities. We're going to want to use them really to kind of blend apart his missile troops. They've got a Burning Chariot. All sorts of nastiness is going to do a lot of damage to us. Did a quick slow-mo. Settra dropped down a Skull Storm in the middle of all of these slavering idiots. Should toss a lot of them around. Rip through that barrier, try to shred that off before any of the Chariots actually crash in. That way they're not having to get through that with their charge bonus. You will see how quickly they do rip through that with their charge bonus. The Royal Chariots smashing into the Pink Horrors here and pretty much just blending them alive. They were Pink Horrors. Still want to keep them away from Halberds if you can, but them and the Flamers need to go quickly. Anything with that much weapon strength is going to be a problem. We've got our Necrosphinx ripping into the spawn there. Should tear apart the corrupted flesh. And then the lad floating around on the disc is also causing some problems. The Burning Chariot should never be in melee. You want to keep this guy up on top, blasting away with his flamethrower until he is out of ammunition. Since the AI is not going to do that, though, we're going to take full advantage. Basically, we're going to park our Archer Chariots back in the back and just kind of let them plink away at the barrier on these boys back here. A single volley, though, kills a model, so you want to be very, very cautious. These Archer Chariots are they're starting to fall behind our rest of our line. Absolute havoc is being wreaked. At frontline, those Marauders that did make it get sandwiched and crushed just as they decide to run. Spawner in, lowering that armor. But we have plenty of missiles to tear them apart with. Some pink horrors become pin cushions, and we can switch up targeting to the spawn that are charging in. As another beautiful chariot charge crushes it. Basically, Settra's chariots are destroying the enemy, annihilating, whatever word you want to use. Slice this man's little squidgy tentacle off and stab him with it. That's the true disrespect. God, we got pink horrors being tossed all over the place. The halberds are not, the chariots are making quick work. Settra is charging on away after one of the other units is retreating as the archers continue to plink their shots into this man's forehead. Any bit of exposed flesh they can shoot. Another volley after Settra, and it does connect. They do a ton of damage. Soul Grinder of Tzeentch definitely ending up being their MVP, did the most damage to our overall units there. But grinds its last soul. Merry are gone as those marauders are sent back to the spirit realm. Run, little Toddy, run. Oh. That's not gonna do it. Victory for Settra. Never any doubt. The Pretender Prince was crushed pretty quickly, and so he's going to be sent back home to the warp to regenerate very painfully. We only lost 66 in the battle. Lots of that went to the Guinness Golden Hound that managed to be cast while I was busy with my attentions elsewhere. I think what we're going to go ahead and do, though, is... I'm tempted to pack them into jars. But what I think we'll go ahead and do is grab the Endless March just for the gold. And a bit O movement. And then we'll come on back with Settra's newly improved army of Royal Chariot Guard. We need to give these guys some new names as well. We can start sending him out to conquering and dealing with the different armies. There was one that was kind of floating around over here, so it may be going to try to find a weaker settlement to hit. And if that's the case, we'll have to be dealing with a uprising of chaos here in but a moment. Eight Weaver's Crevasse is where they will be starting from. Do we able to swing on over to Volatrox then? Or do we want to go further afield to one of these others so we can hit multiple of the provincial capitals at once? The next one is actually going to be over here where Oxyotl starts. And the Lizardmen are having a really hard time. And actually, Bretonnia is all but crushed. If we swing up to the north, Lyonesse is gone. All of the northern parts of Bretonnia are wiped out. All that is left is, I believe this is Carcassonne. Yeah, Carcassonne is all that's left. And they are down to 3 settlements, so hopefully they can hold on. Only issue is the Wildwoods are stirring, and so the end times that we are getting is going to be the one with the Wood Elves. And it said that was going to be 10 turns. I don't exactly remember how long ago that was, but the Wood Elves are about to turn on everyone and start clapping cheeks. So we need to prepare and arm up. In possession of the 7th book was a dread force of both beastmen and greenskins. Biggins and minotaurs marched side by side, and the Beast Lord held sway over a massive Cygor. Arkhan moved without hesitation. They would slaughter these cattle and claim back Nagash's power, and then he would bring ruin to the von Karstein bloodline. Such was the will of Settra, and so it shall be. Alright, after a good bit of traveling, we have finally cornered the Dwellers of Zardoc here, and they have claimed themselves one of the Books of Nagash. We could give this to the auto-resolve pretty easily, and we would lose, it says very little. Give it a close victory, so we'd probably lose most of our front line. I would not like to do that for these Books of Nagash battle, that seems a bit weak. So we have got a pretty elite army here. Got Savage Orc Biggins and Bestigor for the front line, that's pretty disgusting. You got some Savage Orc Arrow Boys, as well as some Centigors. It's got some speedy units to keep them safe. We've got a good deal of artillery. So we should be able to blast apart these Biggins and Bestigors here before they get too close. We just got to keep all of these speedy units tied down. We've got a good deal of Javelin Men and our own Skeleton Horse Archers we can kind of throw away. But all of these units that we have are going to be pretty nasty against their own. Let's get to it. And it shall be a battle of the combined arms for the Book of Nagash. We've got a army of greenskins and beasts versus our own of Tomb Kings and our very lovely Dawi with the flame cannons. They are looking very interesting with the Khemri colors. They've decided to dye their wheels and the flames, or the cannons themselves, red, which is awesome. They've got this interesting baby blue underneath their red vests. You're going to be able to see them from a long ways off. We have our other artillery on either side ready to lay down some hate. Their main targets are going to be the Biggins and any of the archers that try to get a little bit closer. We have our halberd units to rip apart their fast movers. Their most dangerous units to start this battle off are going to be these boar riders and these spider riders. Centaur actually have really, really low stats across the board, so once they charge in, you'll notice they just don't do much. Even though they look like they'd be pretty aggressive. This guy's neck's having a little bit of a problem here. But like, yeah, they just do not perform well once they get into combat. Other issue is going to be the Cygor here, because he's going to be throwing rocks the size of car doors at us the entire battle. Ones that have also been enchanted to have aimbot. Slams right into our front line of Bronze Host. Several aren't going to be getting up from that. We're going to use the one group of archers we do have to kind of stay on the outskirts and shoot at as many of the units as we can. Just weaken the overall Minotaurs as they charge in. They've got a metallic blood red sheen to them. Gonna be honest, they're a pretty awesome looking unit. The Ragnarok spiders, while large and scary looking, are gonna be bogged down pretty bad and pretty easily with all of our javelins once they get a little bit closer. You can see the first volley of javelins already starting to go away. We're gonna have to stay in slow-mo for a good part of this. Javelins and flame cannons tearing into the spider riders as they charge on forward. There is nothing but death for those who approach. And crashing into the Centaurs as well as more javelins find their mark, and Arkhan summons some warriors from underneath just to provide a bit of a distraction so those javelins can continue to slice away at the enemy, rip through those large units. That first charge is completely crushed. We got Minotaurs rolling it in the back group over here. That guy got clacked by a flame cannon before he managed to reach. Really good aim from our Dawi allies here. However, we're going to want to switch that targeting because it's going to do some massive work to our own troops. The Bronze Host is more than capable of holding their own, though. Our Halberdiers are whooping on the Spider Riders, so that's not even a fight. And one group of archers we have is going to sit here and fire away into this Ragnarok. Keep the battle going. Spirit Leeches are going to continue to fly down on any of their large units they have. About a poison blasting into the back of these boar boys. They're not going to want to sit there for very long and deal with that. Our front line is being blasted apart by our own artillery. Such is the way sometimes. We've got our halberd Necropolis Knights on a secret agent mission to go assassinate the Skygore. Just watch how fast the health drops of those Ragnarok spiders. They're really large, so they absorb missiles quite badly. Necrolith Colossus is fighting against the Minotaurs. Their banners were blocking things for a bit there. Beasts and orc flee all across the map. Arkhan's legions have easily outmaneuvered and outperformed. Scorpion's in as well. It's so hard to pin the Scorpion down. Throws so many units around. Devastating combination. The Boar Riders are coming on back, only to be intercepted by those Spearmen there. Flame Cannons are wreaking havoc in on the archers in the back line. Couldn't tell if these guys were Gore or regular Orc boys for the moment. They're jello. Omaha Anubis is chasing off the Ragnarok Spider. Probably not a battle he wants to be doing, but it has shattered, and that is the victory. Book of Nagash claimed. And we took a little bit of damage at first, but Arkhan was able to heal it up just fine with all of his healing spells, so we come out of that looking like we only lost 71 out of... we lost a lot more in actuality. We pack 9 of them into the jars, and we'll go ahead and actually bind their souls. That way we're at 100%. For a specific reason. I'm not so concerned with this army continuing to live, but the 7th Book of Nagash is ours, and this is the one that gives us more research rate and 10 canopic jars per turn, which is amazing. And now we start our war with the Castle of Drakenhof. We've asked Arkhan to come up north and purge this this nightmare, so we need to start it off. Let's see who exactly they're at war with.
On thy knees, then and only then shall I hear thine words.
Alright, you're talking crazy. Speaking old English speak, and you don't need to. Settra's even older than you. He is uninterested.
Speak. I will hear you now. Be
There.
warned, my mood is dark.
You better fix that mood. We're gonna go ahead and join your war against Sylvania. And you shall grant me gold.
Empire's blessings, yes.
It pains me. It shouldn't. I'm about to beat the ever-living brakes off of the vampires for you. Alright, Arkhan. Get him. Gonna give us a valiant defeat. There are a lot of Graveguard behind these walls, but the problem with their Graveguard's continuing desire to live is we have lots of artillery. We're gonna go ahead and continue the siege and pass out Arkhan's skills. Him and Onuris. So what can we go for that is gonna help us out the best here? I think we just continue to make Arkhan stronger. This gives us more leadership for the entire army. And that drops the cooldown for Wind of Death. I guess it also gives us Wind of Death. There are a lot of Graveguard behind the wall there. Purple Son of Xeris would also be very nice. We're not going to be able to get over to that, though. So let's grab Lord of Shaish's Winds. Get less cooldown for all of our Lord of Death spells. Our infantry don't matter.
Yes.
Alright, Omaha. I think you will go ahead and grab... That's not so useful right now. We'll just go ahead and grab for evasion. Keep him safe in the upcoming battle. Let's start it off.
Attack.
Yep, lots of Graveguard, some Crypt Ghouls, and some Black Knights behind the wall, as well as a Vargulf. The Vargulf will actually probably be their most deadly unit. We have a whole bunch of big boys that have a Spirit Leech bound to them, so we'll be able to drain the health from this thing and no problem. Let's get to the fight. It's time to see if the defenders of Castle Drakenhof have what it takes to keep the capital city for their masters. We've got a nasty setup. I noticed there are absolutely no towers off of this one side here, so all of our artillery is over here to rain havoc down from with absolutely no reprisal from the enemy. While all of the others kind of charge on in, we're going to basically just allow our artillery to blast apart the enemy to start here, since we are going to have way weaker infantry than the enemy. Our big beasties are going to lead the charge, of course. We'll allow the artillery to do all of the main damage there. Flame cannons got through those gates almost instantly. And now we can use them to start blasting holes in walls as well. Have Arkhan move forward pretty much by himself. We've got a Vargulf behind the walls that I was hoping to get pinned down with any of the different spells, but he's going to waddle on away. Wind of Death rips through. Got 100% armor piercing, so it's going to do a lot of damage to those it does hit, but it moves pretty quick and goes away fast as well. Summon some skeletons drop down. Hoping to get them with anyone who tries to surround that group of skeletons with a Tomb Swarm. See the actual damage that's being done to the enemy now. Another Wind of Death blasting through. The enemy wasn't quite clumped up enough. I wasn't getting the best casts there. A portion of the wall goes down, allowing us to kind of sit here and throw javelins through the breach as well. Arkhan and Onuris can kind of sit. I was going to use them to use Spirit Leeches on the Vargulf, but he knew it was coming, so he ran away. Bit of the old Soul Blight dropping down for all of these Graveguard, weakening them by a good margin. It does wear off, though. You can see the Hyro Titan moving on forward. The Graveguard really don't want to give us a good target. Which, fair enough. Battle for the town square is unfolding for real. We've got the Doom Scorpion charging into this unprepared group of Tomb Guard, or Grave Guard. There's guard all over the place. And all over the place over there as well. Our summon of skeletons died pretty quickly, but they were basically just meant to try to lure as many of the Grave Guard around them as we could, so we could blast them apart with spells and the artillery teams. Get some good javelin chucks up on the wall, a lot of them plinking into the stone, unfortunately. Propolis Knights are in, use that mass to bash around the formations of Sword and Board Grave Guard. Construct's really providing us an extreme advantage in this battle. We are very lucky that Vargolf elected, I guess, to stay outside and do nothing for the most part of the battle. Another Doom Swarm dropping down, just trying to get through this first group of Grave Guard. Half the army gone, what allows us to kind of charge in as a giant blob of concrete death and smash right through the skeletons. Danger close artillery strike coming in. We definitely need to give them some better targets. The Vargolf is charging on in. Fluffy's had enough. He gets gifted with a Spirit Leech and charges in to do battle with our Hydro Titan. Already getting coated in his own blood. Not a fight this big boy wants. Punched to the side of the head by a Colossus. Get out of here, Bat. You stand not a chance. Pretty nasty hit with that explosion. We're going to have our Horse Archers harassing their Grave Guard that are counting as their Lord. And then our Disciples have broken through on the other side there, wiggling up to claim this position. The Gatehouse belongs to us, and Arkhan is just kind of hanging off to the side, casting spells wherever he'd like. Drops down the Liber Mortis and charges on in. Another Spirit Leech going down on the big fluffy bat.
Obey.
And the Grave Guard are being slowly and steadily pushed back. They're starting to disintegrate away now. Necromancer's holds on them starting to wane. And how we all surge forward as one. Sending some bats down to limit the, I guess, the maneuverability of our constructs, but I think that would just be a blender of bat wings and blood there. Fight's going very poorly for the Vargolf. On this side, we have the Grave Guard, or the Black Knights, charging on in. Again, not a fight our Disciples want. We're going to want to pull them out of this as best we can. There are two groups, another one coming over to try to get a pincer move. We're just completely hiding in the wings for us to do any capturing and nonsense. They watched the last battle. If they get captured, the Disciples are going to need to retreat as fast as they can. On the other end, what counts as their lord is being picked off by barrages of Soulfire. And the Vargolf is on his ever last leg there. Heavily wounded. And now starting to crumble away. Once this Vargolf was defeated, there was absolutely nothing the vampire counts had that they could do. Friendly fire coming down from the towers as Arkhan decides he doesn't want any part of that. Let's just let them crumble away. Our Disciples of Asaph barely escaping. narrowly. Still not out of it yet, though. They may choose to send the knights outside of the wall and pursue. They do when they think they absolutely have no chance of you escaping. But with the death of their lord, huge hit to leadership. Another summoning of some Nekaph warriors from underneath, using the Tomb Blade. And some Wendigo-esque Crypt Ghouls. You thought your hordes were innumerable. The hold on his minions breaking. Castle Drakenhof falls to Arkhan. And Arkhan starts off by proving Nagash's followers weak. Sylvania loses their prized castle already. We only lost 9. It was mostly due to the fact that we get to heal up. Really sad that the flame cannons really haven't gotten to prove themselves worthy just yet. I think once we get a nice large battle against the undead on the open field, these guys are going to be able to tear into them like they are made of wet paper. Or any other analogy you might want to put. I couldn't think of any good ones at the time. Go ahead and move on through, and we actually may go ahead and sack Drakenhof first for the 9k. Beat the people down here and teach them their place. Storm of Necromancy kicks on off, and actually we're going to claim Drakenhof. Start our enclave in the Sylvanian province. Have to become an elector count. We'll do so by fixing these provinces. So for Arkhan, the Wind of Death performed very well in that battle, so we'll go ahead and upgrade it there. Sounds good. His abilities are all pretty well hardened off. We just don't really get access to any of his Legion of Death, Fellbats, and Crypt Ghouls, since we are not, or Direwolves really. Or I guess any of the Vampire Counts units. We just don't get access to them. So we will just have to ignore that for now. For Omaha and Nubis, I think we want to go for magical reserves. We want as much magic as we can get for this army. We want to be spell slinging like crazy. Drag down the enemy heroes before they can do the same to us. How is Drakenhof looking? They've got the Skull Repository. We got to fix up most of these buildings here. We get a new gold mine. Amazing. A bit sad that the Nekharans don't use it as well, but we do have our Gifts of Labaris, so all of our bows are going to be pretty nice. We already have those gifts locked on in. We'll keep the Skull Repository in here so we get access to some more catapults and such. But that marks the beginning of our Vampire War as well. Starting our little outpost up here in the north, there should be lots of trade resources up here to claim as well over here in Sylvania. It was time once more for the Chosen of Asaph and Khsar to face one another in battle. Khalida had gathered many kings and priests, as well as their legions to her side for the coming conflict. While Nekaph stood with Apophis and his trusted elite, Horseman, warrior, and construct stood together as one, poised to destroy the Queen's futile resistance. Let it begin. And Nekaph's riders shall now face down a pretty massive war host of Khalida. Nothing incredibly elite in her army, but we will take a look in a moment. We have kind of set up in a bit of a defensive position over here in this Empire camp. There we've got our artillery. Nothing can go through this camp here, so we've kind of got the infantry set up around it, and then our archers on the flanks as well. We're just going to send the archers out to the flanks, harass as much as we can. Khalida does give her entire army poison damage, and her skeleton archers looks to already have, I think her archer spawn with the Gifts of Labaris being from Labaris, so her arrows are going to have a lot of bonus versus infantry and some hawkish precision. She may just have some buffs given over to them, but bonus versus infantry on archers is always nasty. Nekaph on his War Sphinx is going to charge right on over, while our Nekaph archers move off to the left flank, and the skeleton archers move to the right. Some arrows clink away in the shields. Shooting those at the normal skeleton archers is really not where I want those arrows. We want them going after the horses over here, the horsemen. All of their horsemen have a bonus versus infantry, or bonus versus large, rather. We don't need that crashing into any of our flanks, because most of our horsemen are pretty lightly armored themselves. Horse archers continue to irritate the enemy there. Same thing on the other side, they've got some horsemen that were charging on over, they're getting coated in arrows, so they kind of pull on back. Indecision shall be their end. Tomb Swarm ripping apart the clumped up group in the middle there. Getting some damage on Khalida. She does heal quite a bit though. The Ballistae are blasting away at who they can. Taking their shots. Most of them looking to either miss or just not do all that much damage per hit. So not so worried about the Ballistae the enemy are using. We have gotten in behind and around, but the Carrion have swooped on over to try to chase them off, so our archers are going to move away from there as they can. The archers, or the horsemen that Nekaph had summoned, have been routed on away, and Khalida is getting absolutely smacked by a combination of Apophis and our lord there. Got some friends surrounding us, but we have our catapults staking up on the hill there to blast away at them. Khalida is normally a very potent fighter, but so is Nekaph. Battering aside plenty of her soldiers, her reinforcements have arrived. Our horsemen have gotten in on their back line. I've decided to send them in as melee troops to kind of eliminate this ballista. I didn't exactly know how much damage it was doing or where it was shooting at the time, so we just needed to eliminate this artillery team and keep moving through. It also is going to give the dual purpose of scaring off those archers. The enemy always keeps their archer units in a skirmish mode, so you can scare them off pretty easily if you need to. Just running at them usually is enough. Lita has it isolated from Apophis, so she's actually winning her battle against Nekaph. And our Tomb Guard with great swords on horseback have charged on in and cut through the enemy horsemen. Got the Tomb Guard on both sides. Just kind of leaving them back, letting things play out. We've got the other group over here. They'll be able to kind of harass whoever they want once the enemy kind of spreads out a little bit more. They do have pretty equal armor to the others, so we don't want them to take too much damage. Khalidah's decided she's found a juicier target and is going to go after some of our horse archer units. But Apophis is going to make sure she gets dragged down by Assyrian's Wrath in the meantime. Horde of skeletons are moving on over, but our archers is continuing to stay away from the enemy now. They've got some Bastethi that are having pretty much no trouble keeping up, so we're going to want to keep filling them with arrows and moving away. Continue isolating who we can, and then bring over the Tomb Guard with the great swords to help out as they thunder on through. Pull them away for a moment, see who we can get isolated from the rest of their unit, and then destroy them from there. Vocal Stalkers are lending their might, defending our artillery teams. Poor Khalida caught in against pretty much the worst possible unit to fight her. She has slain several, but they will win in the long run. Horsemen charging through and crushing that normal group of warriors as Nekaph goes and does battle with their wizard. And eliminates the archer group in the back line as well. Tomb Guard horsemen making quick work of what's going on back here. Some ineffective arrow fire going after Nekaph, but our archers are going to continue to pull away. We are starting to get very close to our infantry line and our artillery, so we're going to want to be a little bit cautious. Don't want to draw the enemy into our artillery line. Give them free kills on one of our more important units there. The Vocal Stalkers are actually losing their fight quite badly, starting to crumble away. Lita's got a lot of regeneration, and she uses it to her fullest. Storm Riders are ripping through that group. Our artillery continues to blast away at everyone that is surrounding Apophis. He's created a nice target for them. And being ethereal, he only really takes damage from the catapult shots coming on in. For reinforcing, Lich Priest explodes himself and then gets batted aside as well. Continuing to try to coat Nekaph in arrows. as our Tomb Guard horsemen prepare for yet another charge into this group. I want to stay back a little bit, though. They do have some Tomb Guard halberds that are in the way. We don't want to charge into halberds for no reason. Our artillery team has found yet another target and is blasting apart these skeleton archers here. Who, if we, at the end of this battle, we'll see that the enemy archers have probably done a good number on our legions, but Khalida breaks. Or she doesn't, she's unbreakable, but her forces have all shattered. It is now up to Khalida. Group of Assyrian coming on down. She is surrounded by both ethereal units and not. She can fight as long as she can. But our Shabti summon has arrived in from the rear there, and Nekaph is rushing on over to deal as well. Apophis wants a hug. Slash going down. She's completely surrounded. Gonna fight as long as she can, though. And then the High Queen is unseated yet again. Victory Nekaph. We take once more to the snowy fields of these mountains to destroy this final defending force here at the Misty Mountains. The Court of Labaris will not be defeated here, but this will be an incredible setback, and they will have to spend some time recruiting another force, so let's get to it. Our battle strategy is going to be very, very similar to the last one, where we have all of our horse archers up front to harass and just keep the enemy distracted while everyone else moves into position. We've got our Tomb Guard horsemen rolling with Nekaph up front. He just summoned in his extra as well. We've got all of our infantry moving up, as well as our weakened artillery teams. I'm not sure where this ballista, aka the bone thrower, came from. I need to go back through and see if we definitely didn't recruit this bone thrower, but there he is. But now he's in our team. So Nekaph may steal from enemies now. I'm not sure if that was a bug or what's going on there. But our archer line charges quickly towards the enemy. They don't really have very many elite forces here. The most elite they have is definitely going to be Rupesh, King Rupesh coming in as reinforcements. Since he's rolling around on a war sphinx himself. Apophis is going to wiggle on in and start slicing apart their catapults. With ease. Batting them aside. Just keep them from blasting away at any of my horse archers as they charge on in. They've got archers of their own, and you can see our armor is really not great, so any return fire is really unfortunate. Do everything you can to surround the outside of the enemy and just coat them in arrows. As the horsemen rush on in, get a bit of a horse duel. The anti-large of these horsemen is not going to help them against the Tomb horsemen coming in. Cavalry clash. And we get a bit of friendly fire blasting on overhead. They're getting to start firing back with their own catapults. But a summon from... Oh, he's still fighting. Never mind. He is stuck in here with a big group of them, and the catapults are going to continue to blast away. Really good accuracy, too. Hammering into my archers. Got our ballista and catapult as well. I had them both on anti-artillery duty, so they're blasting away at him, while the bone thrower I switched targets to hitting Rupesh. He's a large target, might as well start getting some shots in while we can. Team of 15 Tomb Guard horsemen is making a blitz move on the enemy here. For better or worse, they're going to charge on in, start whipping those great swords through the enemy. Will want to pull those 15 out. More enemies have reinforced. A whole nother host of the Labaris has shown on up. 3 armies here. Most of it chaff, though. Nekaph should have no trouble. Tomb Guard with great swords bogging down one of their other kings. They should pull him off his horse and his throne with haste. We're going to go ahead and pull our horsemen away, though. Leave the ones that Nekaph summoned as a defensive wall. As Nekaph batters around the enemy prince. Or does a little dance, one of the two. Not entirely sure what he's up to. Apophis is running away from Rupesh, who I realize that Rupesh is absolutely beating down on Apophis. He doesn't actually have any magical attacks himself, but just the sheer damage coming out of the construct form there is just, it's overwhelming Apophis. Tried to pull him on away while the enemy archers do a good job screening my horsemen out. Switch our artillery targets, that way we can start disrupting their archer formations as best we can there. But our infantry lines in there is ripping through each other. The lads from the underworld being incredibly tough to bring down. Many lives slain already for Labaris, but Apophis has been chased down by a mixture of Nehekara warriors and Rupesh. Our arrows are continuing to slash on in, but Apophis is not going to be able to escape. And he explodes, destroying that group of Nehekara warriors in the process. We're going to continue to let those archers focus fire down on Rupesh while Nekaph routes off the rest of his army. If we can crush the rest of his army and then deal with him, that would most likely be the best course of action. He doesn't quite unbreakable, but he has a lot of leadership. Will be willing to fight for Labaris to the very end. Another summoned group of horsemen shutting down their archers, or their one of their wizards there. While their last few of their lords and heroes are all that really remain here. Foot soldiers have already been slain. Got him surrounded and firing. I actually completely lost him. He disappeared. I think he has an ability. Yeah, he's got the sand veil. So he, about right here, he disappeared from view, and I thought they managed to kill him, and where he bugged out and fell through the map, only to have him reemerge over here, and you'll see in a moment. As most of our forces kind of just stand around, I thought we had won. We just needed to wipe out these last few Hierophants back here in the back, who are struggling pretty bad against our horsemen. Meant for war, they are not. Rupesh reveals himself, and Nekaph rides on over to give him a punch to the back of the head for his slaying of Apophis. We get a stagger on the hit, so I'm going to pull on away and allow my horsemen to stream in and deal with him. That damage that would normally be going to Nekaph is going to be going to those Tomb Guard horsemen instead. Nekaph can rotate on around behind and slam in for a rear charge, breaking Rupesh and ending the conflict. Right. Make me a liar. There it is. His construct breaks. He does drop down a curse, though, so we're going to take a bit of damage on the way out. King Rupesh falls. The last defenders of Labaris that they've recruited thus far have been annihilated. Another victory, but Apophis was wounded fighting against King Rupesh over there. He is quite the powerhouse in combat, but we managed to surround and destroy this army. And in our folly, we thought that this would be the final remaining force for Khalida. It is not. She has claimed, I forgot she claimed over here the Desolation of Nagash, and I actually think she has access to Nagishazar if the Skaven aren't still claiming it. So while Apophis has been wounded, he'll take some time to come on back, and then we must make the final march up to the Desolation. And Sehenizmet's master strategy of sitting out and waiting for the demons to try to claim back their settlement has worked out. They really think that they were sitting there waiting for the garrison. Since the garrison is not replenishing very fast, they're sitting there waiting for us to retreat so that they can attack it. We scooted on up with Sehenizmet's ever-knowing intelligence and waited for them in an ambush, and it worked out. We are actually going to fight this one even though it says decisive victory with low casualties. Apparently our stone army is so powerful at this point that not even Chosen of Tzeentch and Lords of Change can sway the auto-resolve at this point. But this is actually a pretty potent army. They've got some very powerful enemies here, really powerful units, except for these Marauders. Don't look at them. But let's get to the fight. And now it's time we bring nightmares to chaos. The forces of Accipiter Nullsucker here, what an unfortunate name, have been completely surrounded, waddled into an ambush. What's great is this cultist here. He just dips out. He refuses to fight, and he just leaves. That is his only... Whoop, he's out of there. Everyone else continues to fight, because they're a bit more brave. This Lord starts off with a salvo from the Serpent Guard. We have all of our archers off to this one side being protected by an invisible group of spearmen. So these guys look like they're completely unprotected, save for the Tomb Prince and Necrotect. But we've got all of our Ushabti on one side, all of the big boys on the other. Basically, these guys are going to charge in, get into melee with them, and then just get shot in the back with ballistae-sized arrows. We have our magnificent Khemri Titan finally able to do some work here. He's going to be nom-nomming on a Soul Grinder. Souls or the Giant Beetle. We have a charge from the enemy cavalry who is going to be dashed pretty quickly against our halberds. Don't quite make it through into the important units, and they will quickly see their health bars eviscerated. Each shall be disappointed in you this day. So Chaos Chariots are charging into our Serpent Guards, really not something they want to do. Although we do want to pull away before these halberdiers get close. I was having Sahinizmet chase off their cultists because I actually thought he was going to come on back into the fight, but absolutely not. A point-blank shot from the Colossus, not doing much at all, honestly. He'll do more with his fists, as the Lord of Change rushes on over to get involved as well. The sheer number of dead Marauders. All of the mortals are pretty much already dead, the ones that aren't extra marked. Chosen are already piling up. Ones that are being vaporized by laser beams, that is. Stingrays of Death have been all but wiped out. And we're chasing around one of my units of Joff's Gaze pretty effectively there. See some attack animations for our lovely Khemri Titan as he does battle with a Lord of Change and some Knights. Already has slain the Soul Grinder as well. So it uses all of the animations from the Tomb Scorpion, which is entirely fine by me. We've got the Ushabti Ancients coming on over to lend their aid. They've got Anti-Large, and they have Armor Sundering. Basically, this combination here is an unstoppable duo against this poor Lord of Change. The enemy Lord has been slain on his way out, and a majority of the enemy forces is already running for their lives. The two Lords of Change are attempting to hold the line. Each are fighting a giant stone construct many times their size, though. One on the other side has already been slain by the Khemri Titan. Bodies of Chaos litter the wastes. This purge is going to be brutal. Order 66 for Chaos approaches. Only a single Ushabti fell in combat against the ambushed Chaos army. The War of the Five Fronts is unfolding with resounding success, and while Sahinizmet butchers the remaining horrors of Tzeentch in the region, Rasut is moving to secure Lamia and prevent the nearby Hierophant from causing any trouble for the city. King Nekaph had set up an ambush in the Misty Mountains to the north to attempt to lure in the same Hierophant into a trap, or flush out any of the High Queen's armies that may be hiding nearby. King Amenemhotep was slaughtering the Skaven infesting Astalia, clearing one ruined settlement at a time with only Nuja remaining under Ikit control. The same could be said for Talea. Inithor had made swift progress securing Lucini and Rif Rafa, but was not interested in involving himself with the business of the Wood Elves besieging Mirigliano. Arkhan had swiftly and brutally put down any dissenters in Castle Drakenhof, and was now lying in wait with his legion in the dark forest to the southwest of the castle, hoping to catch Vlad von Karstein unawares as the vampire rushed to reclaim his lost seat of power. And Settra had landed his army in the southern wastes. It was now time for the Great King to join his glorious crusade, and purge the foul taint of chaos from the southern edges of the world. Thank you all so much for stopping by part 16 of my Settra the Imperishable narrative campaign. If you have any tips, tactics, or unit name suggestions, take to the comments and let's start a discussion. But I am out of time for today. I'm in Space Wizard Total War. Remember to leave a like for the Light God and a sub for the Sub Zone, and I will see you all in the next one.